For most people, their doctor will not address or support their thyroid gland until their TSH comes back as abnormal. But what if you're someone who's dealing with thyroid symptoms right now and your TSH keeps coming back within the normal range? Well, that's where we have to dig a little bit deeper. So to help you out with that, in today's video, we're going to talk about how Hashimoto's progresses, how that can impact our thyroid pathway, and why people with Hashimoto's can have hypothyroid symptoms even though their TSH is normal. My name is Dr. Brad Bodel, and I specialize in helping women with Hashimoto's and low thyroid to lose weight and improve their energy naturally. And if you're interested in learning more about these kinds of strategies, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and also ring the bell. I post videos every single Thursday, and that'll let you know when new content becomes available. As most of you know, Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition that damages our thyroid gland and is defined by the presence of TPO antibodies, TG antibodies, or both. But just because you have these antibodies present on your blood labs doesn't mean that you automatically have hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism, on the other hand, is defined by low circulating thyroid hormone and an elevation in TSH. And Hashimoto's is one potential cause of hypothyroidism. And if you want to learn more about the differences and similarities between Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism, I'll link for you my video on the topic in the cards above. But the main thing I want you to keep in mind for today is that when you first develop Hashimoto's and those autoimmune genes turn on and you start producing antibodies, it doesn't mean that you immediately have a problem with the production of thyroid hormone. This is what we call silent autoimmunity, where we have positive antibodies but no symptoms at this time, and our TSH and T4 levels are normal. However, if we continue to stress our immune system and our antibody levels continue to rise, then there's an increased likelihood that this can lead to the development of symptoms and changes to our thyroid lab markers over time. But of course, today we're focusing on how we can have those hypothyroid symptoms before we reach that end stage and our TSH and T4 values change. And to better understand that, we need to have a firm grasp on how those antibody reactions can interact with our thyroid pathway. Our thyroid pathway all starts with the brain. The brain is constantly monitoring the amount of thyroid hormone in the bloodstream. And if there's too much, it's going to decrease the amount that it asks our thyroid gland to make. If there's too little, it's going to increase the order. And this is all mediated through the hormone TSH. TSH stands for thyroid stimulating hormone, and when the brain decides that we need to produce more thyroid hormone, it's going to release TSH into the bloodstream, which will eventually find its way down to the thyroid gland and cause it to increase its activity. When this happens, our thyroid will use proteins and enzymes like thyroid peroxidase, or TPO, and thyroid globulin, TG, to put together and assemble thyroid hormone primarily in the form of T4. T4 is then released into the bloodstream, bound to a transport protein, then delivered to the cells that need it. Once there, it is offloaded, and most of our T4 is converted into the active form of T3. T3 can then interact with the cellular receptor and drive metabolism. But here's the problem. Most doctors only focus on the quantity of T4, thinking that if those levels look normal, there should be enough available for the cells to use. But as you probably already guessed, having the right amount isn't everything. And we could have breakdown in any of those steps that we already described, which could lead to the final step not being properly activated. Now, I may have used this example before, but I like it, so I'm sticking with it. But I always like to think of our thyroid hormone binding to our cell like stepping on the gas pedal in our car, because it's what sets cellular activity and makes things go. But if we want to go for a drive in our car, even though we know we need to step on that gas pedal to make the car go, if we miss any of the steps leading up to that point, like we don't get in the car in the first place, or we don't turn the ignition, it's going to make that last step matter much less. And this is where Hashimoto's and the associated autoimmune activity come back into play. And I hope I can make this really clear for you guys. Most doctors are only looking for overt patterns of hypothyroidism, where the gland is damaged so much that it can't create enough T4, and the brain responds by increasing TSH. Now, Over time, Hashimoto's can cause enough damage where we eventually have physical and structural changes occurring at the level of the thyroid gland. And this is what most doctors are waiting for. They're waiting for this end stage process to occur. That way they can clearly see something is wrong with the thyroid gland, which allows them to recommend thyroid hormone replacement. But the problem is, Hashimoto's isn't so much a thyroid problem as it is an immune problem, and this is the thing that gets missed. When our immune system is functioning abnormally, it will increase our inflammatory levels. This inflammation can interrupt our thyroid pathway at a number of different locations, and although it can disrupt the function of the thyroid gland itself, it can also decrease the communication between the brain and the thyroid. It can decrease the transportation of thyroid hormone, it can decrease the conversion of T4 into T3, and it can prevent T3 from binding to the cell. What we say before about driving our car? Any interruption in the process that prevents us from stepping on that gas pedal essentially has the same result. We don't go anywhere. The same goes for the inflammatory, antibody-mediated reaction that goes along with Hashimoto's. And it doesn't matter if you interrupt the pathway near the start or near the end. A break in the chain is a break in the chain, and it all results in a decrease in metabolism and the development of hypothyroid symptoms, even though your TSH and your T4 levels are normal. So to quickly recap, Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition that over time can cause enough damage to our thyroid gland that leads to changes in TSH. However, in the beginning, we can have symptoms without changes in TSH because of the fact that the inflammatory and antibody response that is occurring interrupts the way our thyroid pathway works. These symptoms are very real and often predate changes in TSH by many years, which is why it's so important if you're continuing to have thyroid issues even though your TSH is normal to make sure your doctor screens you with a full thyroid panel that includes things like TPO antibodies and also TG antibodies. But I hope you liked today's video and found it useful. And if you're someone who's continuing to struggle with thyroid symptoms and your doctor's refusing to take that next step and dig further into the potential causes of your thyroid problems, you can always send me an email at contact@seattlethyroidhelp.com. I work with these types of problems every single day in my clinic, and I'd be more than happy to set up a free consultation with you to see if we would be a good fit to work together. Also, make sure to grab my free download, which is linked below. It's Electrolytes for Hashimoto's and Keto, and if you've been using a low carbohydrate or ketogenic way of eating to improve your thyroid symptoms, then supporting your electrolytes can be key to taking that next step and seeing an improvement in your energy, brain function, sleep, and also avoiding things like muscle cramps. Check it out, let me know what you think. I hope it will have a lot of value in there for you. But that's all there is for this week's video. Thank you guys for the continued support and keep up the great work taking the time to invest in your own health and learn more. I know in the beginning it can seem like a huge mountain to climb, but as long as you're making progress and taking a little step every single day, that's success. My name is Dr. Brad Bodel. I hope you're having an amazing week, and I'll see you next Thursday.